Brandon McManus here is the kicker until further notice. And he made, what, 69% of his kicks a year ago. This is my question. You established yourself as the kicker in Denver for a number of years. And having built that confidence in a coaching staff, does it actually affect your performance positively to know, hey, this coaching staff has my back even if I nudge the 43-yarder left? Whereas McManus is still proving himself to this coaching staff. Does it actually, can that actually have an effect on performance, knowing that, like in your case, you were the man, and in McManus's case, he's not?
Yeah, I think that, first off, I thought he was really poorly handled last year.
Explain that.
If the position is such a position of confidence, and it's one thing having the guys in the media critiquing you, which is what their job is. It's a whole other thing. When I was watching the one game when the center for the Broncos was, going ballistic on the sidelines when he missed a kick and stuff, and you losing that support of your teammates is huge, and not just getting that. Tom Jackson would meet me, when I was coming off the field, whether I made a kick or missed a kick, and that helps a lot. I mean, here's the guy who was the spiritual leader for the team, right?
Right.
Because if you're a kicker, and we've seen it in games in college and the pros all the time, where you have no friends if you miss something. I mean, when you go to the bench, it's like, okay,
you're a pariah.
Yeah, and so what?
It's a tough job anyway, right? I mean, it's a tough job because you may stand around for 3 quarters, or and all of a sudden in the fourth quarter you've got to make a kick.
Well, and people remember the misses more than they remember the makes.
Sure. And I mean, there were times that I'd miss a kick in the second quarter and we'd lose the game by 3 points, and I was having to answer for that kick in the second quarter. So, it's we're all perfectionists, you're in your trade, but not having that support of your teammates. And I thought, he's a young kid who needs a lot of support and a lot of encouragement from the coaching staff and from his teammates. And when I saw the behavior on the sidelines last year, it was him, and it was
is it Manny Ramirez?
Might have been. It was Ramirez, I think, and maybe even Demaryius Thomas. I was embarrassed for them because I thought it showed a real unprofessional side. Not no one knows when the camera's going to be on you, right? But nonetheless, it is a game. It's a tough job, and you need your teammates, support, and especially with the young kicker, that's trying, and I thought it was an interesting move that they made today, because I know that they were, I know Colquitt was worried because they brought a punter in that could kick off, and so it was going to go one of 2 ways.
They're getting rid of somebody in all likelihood.
Yeah. And I think Colquitt has a pretty solid resume. I think he might have been off a little bit last year, but the kid, he's been a solid contributor to the team.
Follow up on what he said, that John Fox, I think, realized that Colquitt had been good over the years. Well, when a new coach comes in, everything starts over again. You've got to prove it to us, and that kind of goes back to the McManus stuff. McManus, it works actually to his advantage that they weren't here when he missed some.
But I thought it was interesting that they brought him back.
Yeah.
Which they could have said, we're just going to go a new direction, let him go somewhere else, and start anew. And so they obviously have seen something in him.
Potential. Yeah.
I have to tell you, I was a little disturbed that they were kicking 70-yard field goals last week, because I don't think those matter. I think what matters is making those kicks inside of 50 yards.
Because the 44-yarder at the end of the half or the end of the game. That's the 44-yarder to me is the kick that tells me whether you got it or not.
Yep.
Agree? Disagree?
I absolutely agree with you. I think you want. I remember Morton Anderson telling a story about Bum Phillips telling him if he caught him, this is when he was like his first year or so in the league, if I catch you kicking a field goal in practice over 40 yards, I will fine you.
Really?
Because Morton was a bomber. But that does, you need to develop the skill and the consistency to make those kicks inside of 50 yards.
Come on, you can't have fun with a 70-yarder at the end of
I'm
practice.
sure that they had some fun with it.
Well, Rich
but-
couldn't have fun with a 70-yard offense.
If they gave me 2 attempts,
Well, 20
yeah,
yards
it's
out of
235.
range.
7 iron.
You kind of